Welcome to the Community Awareness Series of the Jersey City Free Public Library. Today we're standing in front of Metropolitan AME Church. This was the location that Martin Luther King came to speak to the public when he was organizing the Poor People's Campaign, which was a campaign against hunger, homelessness, and social injustice, and also for civil rights. He appeared here in front of over 2,000 people, a very enthusiastic audience, and I had the privilege of being here back in March 27th of 1968 to take in this electrifying event. Just a week later, Martin Luther King was assassinated in Tennessee. It was unfortunate that we lost such an iconic individual, but because of him, the cause has been advanced throughout the United States as well as around the world. We have an iconic and historic figure before us, and he appeared here, right here, in 1968 at Metropolitan AME Church on Bergen Avenue in Jersey City, New Jersey. And welcome to our tribute to the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
We are the Instruments of Praise. We're here to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. And we want to start off with a song recorded in the early 60s by an appropriate themed group, the Freedom Singers. I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I keep on walking, keep on talking, walking in the freedom land. Turn me around.
We're here today at the Hudson County Urban League in Jersey City, New Jersey, and we're celebrating a tribute to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And today we're here with the Director of Community Development, Mr. Omar Babar. And we'd like to get some comments from him in reference to his perspective and viewpoints on the contributions of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Omar.
Well, we're talking about one of my greatest heroes, not only my hero, but I think for African Americans, one of the main pillars of greatness in our community and in I think in American society. If you think about in 14 years, the impact that Dr. King had on this society, starting off in '57, at the age of 25, when he took over the pastorship of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. 14 years after that, about 39, he was gone, 1968. So in that short 11-year period, he had such an impact. And I think if you look back on the day, in particular, here we are in 2021, and just think that just a few days ago, in the first part of the year, we had the first black from Georgia elected to the U.S. Senate since the early part of the century. And I don't think it's by chance that Reverend Warnock come out of the tradition of Dr. King, Ebenezer Baptist Church, which was the King's pulpit and his father's pulpit, and I think his grandfather's pulpit. So I think if you look at Dr. King's impact, it's still there, and I think he's looking down on us to have an impact on what the present day situation. Well, definitely we need a man of God than we need now what's going on in our society. So as we get ready to celebrate Dr. King's birthday on the 18th of this month, January, I think it's well deserved and something that we need to look with pride upon. I would say one thing I'm a little disturbed about. Sometimes I don't think we get the definitive King narrative from the it seems like around his birthday time, what we get a lot of times is the two speeches that seem to dominate the various programs that may, or the errands that are done to celebrate his birth, his legacies. One is his speech at the March on Washington, which is a great speech, no doubt. And the other one is the one he gave at the Church of God in Christ Church in Memphis the night before he died. Well, the night before he died the next day at Lorraine Hotel, and also in Memphis. But that speech, some people said that he was already felt that something was coming down the pike, that he was in danger, and he could see it. I mean, great speeches. But I think the definitive King can be found in the works of the great historian Taylor Branch. His three-body works on Dr. King, I think, are seminal. Starting with Parting of the Waters, which is the first volume, which takes King from when he first coming out of Boston University with his new PhD, coming into the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church now in Montgomery, Alabama, which was, they had just got rid of a pastor, and they looking for a new pastor. And the pastor they got rid of surprisingly, was a man by the name of the Reverend Vernon Johns, which is a seminal person in history also, and thank for Taylor Branch, it kind of brings him into the picture because he was one of the unsung heroes. Great man, great preacher, who fought with his church because he stood up to the segregation forces in Montgomery, and would do sermons that they disliked, and his congregation was kind of disliked. They were kind of on the upper crust. But one of the members of that church that I think was so important was happened to be Rosa Parks. So I think when they kind of threw Vernon Johns out, and they brought in this Dr. King, who had impeccable credentials, son of Martin Luther King Sr., Alice Senior Baptist Church, graduate from Boston University, 25 years old, So they just felt they had landed a Morehouse man, and in a few years after that, Dr. King had set up the Montgomery Improvement Association, leading the boycott after Rosa Parks did her landmark decision to sit down and not give her seat up to a white man, which galvanized the civil rights movement. So that propelled him into the national prominence, and I don't think there was any more eloquent a speaker than Dr. King.
I think this year more than probably any within our generation, you can't help but to realize that the work that Dr. King did, it wasn't that long ago. The Jim Crow era restrictions on what African Americans could do in this country and how we were looked at and viewed by our white peers. It's something that we need to remember. It took a long time for us to get to where we're at today. And I think that part of what I respect in the King legacy is just, there's so much work that he did, and he has made such a great impact on our nation, even in his passing. But his work can be undone really easily. And we have to safeguard what he created and what he built. He didn't do it alone. He created a coalition of others that believed in the same concept, that we should all be created equal. It wasn't until Dr. King started to poke holes at the fabric of what our American society had become. The American dream did not exist for everyone in America. It didn't
For our
even
next song, we'd like to do an arrangement by our pianist, keyboard player, Mr. Alan Cherry. It's a gospel classic, Walk With Me. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. Walk with me.
Greetings. My name is Cleopatra Wingard, and I am the proud principal of Martin Luther King Jr., PS number 11 in Jersey City, New Jersey. It is a pleasure to join you today just to give some feedback on the impact of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. At PS number 11, we typically use our mission statement and say it daily. The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. And as a school community, we typically ponder Dr. King's words and the impact he had on society. And there are several. One, he taught us the importance of justice. Justice not just for ourselves as a community, but justice as a nation. At PS number 11, we have a diverse environment. We have students from the Middle East, students from Europe, students from North America, and students from the global world. And so in our school, we celebrate unity, but we also celebrate justice for all. That feeling and that belief system that we are all entitled to equitable rights. We're all entitled to equality. We're all entitled to live in that American dream of opportunity. And at PS number 11, we try to instill in our children that the key to getting that dream is through a successful education. But also we want to instill in them the importance of character, because we want our students to be students with integrity, students who not only know right from wrong, but who act honorably in any situation. And so those are all lessons that we learned from Dr. King. His impact is absolutely monumental. In many of his speeches, such as the one about the life's blueprint, you'll notice that he combines both injustice and justice, the need for justice, with also a need for self-worth. And he reminded the audience back then, approximately 50 years ago, that in this fight for justice, we also have to make certain that we have positive self-esteem, that we have positive self-worth. And as a school community, we also try to instill these beliefs into our children, because we know that if we follow the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, if we follow the legacy that not only did he leave, but the legacy that was left by other civil rights activists, the legacy that was left by those like Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, Dr. Dorothy Height, and all of the other ones that were side by side with Dr. King, Congressman John Lewis, we know that if we follow those words and live that legacy, we really will experience that American dream of equity, of equality, of love, of unity. And we need to know as Americans that each and every person, regardless of where your place of origin is from, you deserve that. You are entitled to that. And we want you to know that you have the self-worth to know instinctively that, yes, you are entitled to these things. And so Dr. King's message could not be more needed in 2021 than ever before, in the time where we're dealing with a pandemic, political crises, and things of that nature. Dr. King's words will continue to echo in our community and echo in the community and society at large. And we just hope that we can live those words. Once again, thank you for joining us. And on this celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King, may we all live that legacy of love, that legacy of justice. May we all continue to be beacons of light and beacons of hope to the Jersey City community. Blessings to everyone.
Thank you for this honor of speaking about the great Dr. King. I was blessed to have had a father who was a lifetime activist. In the 1930s, my father helped the NAACP integrate local restaurants. He worked to end racial segregation at Palisades Amusement Park. He pushed for state anti-bias laws, and he organized the interfaith annual Dr. King Memorial Service at a synagogue, Temple Beth El, on the boulevard. And that tradition still continues with an annual leading African-American speaker. Past speakers have included Senator Cory Booker, Assemblywoman Angela McKnight, Newark Mayor Ras Baraka, and the legendary journalist Earl Morgan, whom the Greenville Library branch is named after. My parents walked with the rabbi and other temple members to hear Dr. King speak at the Metropolitan AME Zion Church a week before he was killed. Dr. King was a powerful leader who put his heart, soul, and wisdom into fighting against unjust laws and against ignorance and arrogance with Dr. King's integrity and tenacity. It's time for our nation now to rededicate ourselves to Dr. King's message of constant love and activism for social justice, economic justice, and equality. His shining example of moral courage in his actions and words will forever ring through the centuries, urging people to invest ourselves in life's true purpose, to do God's work on earth. Our nation is at a crossroads. We must heed Dr. King's message about the essential need to live with determination, knowing every single day calls out to us with a fierce urgency of now and how we care for and respect one another. Dr. King envisioned a beloved community where we all see that we need one another and that we are stronger when we march forward together, raising our voices for liberty and justice for all. Dr. King spoke out against the Vietnam War, and he supported Nelson Mandela's fight to end apartheid in South Africa. Dr. King was committed to ending systemic racism and white supremacy everywhere. 2 months before his assassination, in February 1968, at his Atlanta Ebenezer Baptist Church, whose current pastor was just elected a Georgia senator, Dr. King preached his famous drum major sermon about faith and citizenship. And reflecting upon the eulogy he would want to have at his funeral, he asked that the speaker focus on how he died pursuing justice, that Martin Luther King tried to give his life serving others. Dr. King said, "I'd like for somebody to say he tried to love somebody, that he tried to feed the hungry, that he tried to love and serve humanity." And he concluded with, "If you want to say that I was a drum major, say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. I was a drum major for righteousness." Dr. King wanted people to make a new world and cast off the old world with its prejudices. That's the opportunity we must seize now with the activation of young people and so many people realizing that we must speak up for an equitable society. So my hope is that this 2021 Dr. King Day marks a transformational time with so much to do in our daily lives and with the ongoing struggle against the national and international growth of white supremacists. Dr. King fought for African Americans' right to vote with his fellow leaders like the late John Lewis, and with new leaders like Stacey Abrams of Georgia following in their footsteps. Dr. King made our democracy stronger, and he knew that this is a never-ending struggle. I'll conclude by mentioning about the cause of passing the Liberty State Park Protection Act to once and for all end privatization threats by those who cast aside the purpose of our priceless public land, the People's Park behind Lady Liberty. Dr. King surely would be on our side as we advocate for urban people's right to open space and nature. The park is a sacred public resource for our emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical health, and it's a treasure where people of all colors, religions, ages, and ethnicities enjoy themselves together in a multitude of free activities. Liberty Park uplifts our spirits and enriches our hearts and strengthens our families and is a beacon of our nation's true ideals. That's why it must be protected for future generations. God has blessed us with Dr. King, whose life inspires us all to work for human rights, to teach our children well, and to advocate for people's quality of life.
But then also I think about our children. I think about the things that our kids are seeing today and the things that we have never seen in our lifetime. Really diving deep into, Dr. King was for equality. He wasn't for any race, gender, creed to be above another. It was for equality. And I think that breaks me up the most because he was attacked, to say the least, for just trying to bring people together. Just like Shannon was saying, we weren't able to have bank accounts until the 70s as women. We were still drinking out of separate water fountains, going in separate doors, not able to attend the same movie theaters, having to sit on certain parts of the bus. And then if somebody of a different race came, we would be asked or told, not even asked, to move just because we are not of the quote unquote superior race in their eyes. What Dr. King did for us, he really brought together groups of people to really just see that we all deserve that same equality. We all deserve.
Our next song we'd like to do is Walter Hawkins' composition featuring our saxophonist, Mr. James White. The composition is entitled Thank You. Thank you.
we haven't made it that far. So I think the goal is to really try to instill these things and get that younger generation that is willing and more capable and has a different mindset to make these things move forward. We saw just the other day, last week, the difference between a peaceful and a non-peaceful protest. And if anything, Dr. King has given us that peaceful protest in which even when we're out there marching for our lives and there are police surrounding us in excess, it's ingrained in us to continue a peaceful protest.
On this Martin Luther King Day, I realized that we still have a long way to go in fulfilling the dream that Dr. Martin Luther King had for us and this country and the world. Dr. King was a man of peace and a man of nonviolence. Dr. King's main lesson is that we are all here together, that we are our brother's keepers. And based on the things that was happening here with the pandemic and the uprising in Washington, his lessons that he's been teaching us is more relevant today than ever. He was a man of peace and he was a man of love. And we can take a lot of what he said and what he did to use that to make a better world for ourselves. Dr. King stressed that we are all our brother's keepers. We've learned this lesson through this pandemic and considering all the racial tension and strife that's been going on in this country. As far as this world is concerned, there's no plan B. We are all here together and we all have to learn to be our brother's keepers and to keep Martin Luther King's dream alive.
When I remember Dr. King, I think of his influence as being inspiration. I think he inspired people and continues to inspire people to think in terms of big dreams, to go beyond just material gain and go into things more dealing with love, with peace, with justice, with liberation, with freedom. And I think even though he's dead, his spirit still inspires. And I know it's inspired me in my life because, you know, I first saw Dr. King when I was a little boy or when I was young. And when you're a little kid, you can go this way or you can go that way. And he inspired people to go in a certain direction, and that he's been with me ever since. And as you see, I play guitar, and I'm going to play for you a song that I wrote for Dr. King a few years ago on the occasion of his birthday. So, if I may, with your permission, this is called Dare to Dream. Dreamer, dare to dream, make it up, but keep it real. Hate grows stronger when we no longer have the courage. Dare to dream. There's a man so high and mighty, stacks his coins neat and tidy, counts his silver, counts his gold, gains the world, lost his soul. Dreamer, dream your dream, make it up, but keep it real. stronger when we no longer have the courage, dare to dream. There's a man all bent in sorrow, got no hope for tomorrow. He's lost at sea. He needs a light to find his way back to his dream. Dream on, dream your dream. Make it up, but keep it real. Hate grows stronger when we no longer have the courage, dare to dream, dare to dream.
I'd just like to talk about the legacy of Dr. King and how his work is still going on. It's now, he just passed the baton to another generation. We lost John Lewis last year. Like, he continued on the work. He said, if you're going to get in trouble, get into some good trouble. And there's some good trouble for us to get into, because things after, I was thinking about Thanksgiving. They're celebrating 399 years of Thanksgiving or whatever. Do you know that our slavery preceded Thanksgiving by 2 years? So we've been in bondage before they called this country America, but there's work still to be done. We're still dealing with Voting Rights Acts. We're still dealing with gerrymandering. We're still dealing with unequal wages. We're still dealing with housing discrimination. We're still dealing with making sure the schools in inner cities are up to par. So the work of Dr. King is still to go on, because there was an economic part, not only the civil rights part, there was an economic equity that he was looking for also. So we're still fighting for minimum wage, proper wage, a living wage. There's people that work and still live in poverty. So the work of Dr. King is still yet to be completed. So it's up to me, it's up to you to continue the fight on his behalf. God bless everyone. I pray your strength. And if you're listening to us, you can sing along. shall know